Hey, it's Chuck. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth for Ohioans. He's got it all, man. He's even got the jaw. You know the jaw. You see that jaw, and you're just like, yeah, man, that's a dude. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. And welcome into Buckeye Huddle Prime Time. I'm your host, Chuck. Appreciate you so much for joining me. We're going to be talking a little Ohio State, Texas tonight as the Longhorn fans, they're getting a little cocky, man. Tomorrow we are down to single-digit days before that game, and I cannot believe it, a game that we've been talking about for what seems like forever. I'll be going to the game. I have one of the Juck guys meeting me down there. He's a camera guy. I wasn't going to go to the game. He talked me into going, shooting some stuff, and I'm going to be sitting next to him, bringing my son down there. So I'll be cruising around beforehand, interviewing some people. We'll have some equipment, talking to some Texas fans too. I'm going to be sure to record all that stuff and the new traditions at the stadium. Remember, we got a Scarlet out. We're going to get the towel. We're getting the towel at the stadium, not just any towel. And all the new traditions, we'll check those out. We'll record them, see how the fans act to the new song. Everybody's interested in the new song. But we're going to be cruising around, so if anybody has a tailgate, I'm going to a few. Email me at JuckOnBucks. We'll try to swing through. Some other stuff going on that we're going to hit on today. Michigan lands the number 1 running back in the class yesterday. Sabian Hyder. Buckeyes have their last big target on the board announcing tomorrow night. Braylon Womack, 5-star safety out of Mississippi. He will announce his decision tomorrow night. That'll be at 8 p.m. I'll be live over at Juck on Bucks. So we'll be doing a show tomorrow over at Juck on Bucks. But since I'm going to be live anyway, I'll stream that in and we will talk about Womack's decision tomorrow night. So hop on, same time tomorrow over at Juck on Bucks and join me. Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti gets kind of owned again by Greg Sankey of the SEC and what's becoming a habit for him. Sankey just outdoes him in every way. Bad news for Big Ten fans and not so much Ohio State fans, but Big Ten teams that are teams like Indiana, as there is a new change in the selection committee criteria that very much favors the SEC. We'll go over that as well. And yesterday, a great day to be an Auburn Tiger fan. Now, we all remember what it was like to wake up the morning after the national championship, right? You wake up, what's the first thing? You instantly recall what happened yesterday. Buckeyes won the national championship. I can't believe it. Smile hits your face. 9th national championship in program history. Auburn fans woke up on Monday to find out that Auburn had just won their 9th national championship. Now, they went to bed thinking they had won 2 in program history. They had a 7 national championship night sleep. Can you imagine that? Waking up and Ohio State just won 7 more natties. That's amazing. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, and I want you to ask yourself a question before I get to that segment. Does Ohio State have any national championships that are nonsense claims like some of Auburn's? We'll get into that in a little bit. Please like the show. Please subscribe to Buckeye Huddle. We got a goal of 30,000 subscribers before the Texas game, which is now just 10 days away. We got a little ways to go. So if you could subscribe, please like today's show. When I'm done, if you have any topics you want to hit on, any questions you got, go ahead and pop those in the chat. When I'm done with my segments, I usually go into the chat and talk to everybody, throw some things up at the end of the show before I get out of here. So wait till the end if you got anything you want me to hit on for sure, and I will get to it. Of course, any super chats, I'll get to those as well. But let's start tonight with Ohio State and Texas. Texas, number 1, and Texas ended last season with Ohio State. They'll play back-to-back against Ohio State. I wonder how many times that's happened, that a team has their season ended by a program and then they start the following season facing them again. I have no idea. I don't know if I could go find that anywhere, but it is a pretty cool thing. And as somebody who, or somebody brought this up on the Buckeye Huddle message board yesterday, heading back last year, if we were to look at Ohio State's last 10 games, we've got number 3 Penn State, Purdue Northwestern, number 5 Indiana, Michigan, number 9 Tennessee, number 1 Oregon, number 5 Texas, number 7 Notre Dame, and number 1 Texas. That is 7 out of 10 games in the last 10 games with a team in the top 10, which is just insane. Buckeyes, of course, have played 9 of those now so far. They've won 8. So they will go for 9 out of 10, beating 7 ranked teams in the top 10 if they can knock off Texas in a little over a week here. Now, I ran across this stat from some of the Texas guys. They were sharing this, and they found this pretty interesting yesterday. In fact, Orange Bloods titled one of their shows. Let me pull it up here. I think I had it. Here we go. The stat you need to know. The stat that will make you pick Texas on August 30th. And the stat, you see it right there, 0 for 18. That's the only stat you need to know when choosing the game. And that statistic is a quarterback making his first start against a number 1 team in the country in the last 20 years is 0 and 18. And that stat to me is totally meaningless, but they really think that boosts them. It boosts their confidence anyway, that Julian Sayin and the Buckeyes are going to lose to Texas because he's making his first start against a number 1 team. When does a quarterback generally make his first start? Well, if it's only happened 18 times against number 1 in the last 20 years, you would think generally it is happening to start the season, right? Game number 1. So it just makes sense that the quarterback making his first start, usually going to be in game number 1. Who does the number 1 team usually play in game number 1? Well, for one, they usually play at home. And for two, they usually play a cream puff, right? You usually start off the year with a cream puff. We know it's not a conference opponent for sure. If it is an out-of-conference opponent, it's scheduled a couple rungs down. You're scheduling to win. So the fact that a quarterback in the last 20 years who's gone up against the number 1 team making his first start is 0 and 18 is not only not surprising to me, but if you had laid that out and asked me to guess, I might have guessed, I don't know, 1. So 0, not too far off. But it's clear Texas does have one of the hardest number 1 opening games we've ever seen. I don't imagine there's ever been a number 1 entering the season who's been the underdog in game 1. I mean, maybe there was, but this seems pretty rare. I can't recall it offhand. They might also be the first ever number 1 team to lose their opening game of the year. Like, these are the stats I want to see, not this goofy 0 for 18 thing. I've been thinking about a lot about this game, watching some of the past matchups, watching some more on Arch Manning. And I think what's going to happen here between Texas and Ohio State, I'm kind of excited for it. Look, we got 2 blue blood programs, an SEC, a Big Ten, 2 of the blue bloods. One of them is the number 1 blue blood in the history of the Juck on Bucks rankings. The other, number 8 out of 8. Don't worry, we'll hit on those rankings in a little bit. But the Buckeyes and Texas going to be playing 3 years in a row now. And all 3 years with them in the SEC, their first 3 years in the SEC, which I love. Next year's meeting will be the 6th time Ohio State and Texas play in the history of both programs. But it'll be the 6th time they play this century. All their matchups have been since 2000. Well, 2005 to be exact. In that 2005 matchup in the shoe, first time they ever played, Texas wins in Columbus 25-22. 2006, Ohio State wins in Austin 24-7. End of the 2008 season, technically the 2009 Fiesta Bowl, a heartbreaker as Texas drives the length of the field and wins at the end of the game. But those 3 matchups, 3 and 4 years, and that took place. And now we roll into this series, which is the 24 Cotton Bowl that Ohio State wins 28-14. 2025 in Columbus, series tied 2-2 as we enter the game. And the Buckeyes with a return trip to Texas next year. And that'll be 6 intense games. Those games in 05, 06, and even that Fiesta Bowl, though it wasn't a huge Fiesta Bowl, just a huge game. And we also got to factor in, like, there's a good chance these teams are going to be meeting in the postseason a lot in the near future. But what is the buildup going to be like next year if Ohio State wins 2 in a row and goes down to Texas looking for the sweep? That'll be in primetime, by the way. Or what if they split and this is the rubber match down in Texas next year? Either way, it's going to be amazing. But I'd say the odds are pretty decent. These 2 will meet in the next 3 years in a postseason because Texas has everything running perfectly. They've got a great head coach. They've got great assistant coaches. They have a ton of support. They now have a roster that is top tier to the point where when they go to the transfer portal, and Ohio State's philosophy, they go to the transfer portal to plug a few holes, maybe upgrade here and there at a position when they can, when it's feasible. And that generally nets out to be about 10 or 11 transfers, which is the exact number that Ohio State took this year, the same as Texas took this year, coincidentally, the same that Georgia and Oregon took. They all took 11 or 12 transfer portal guys, which we can see now. That's the sign of a roster that is loaded up. That's all you need. And Texas is there. They're absolutely there, and nothing is changing about the trajectory of the Texas program. So they're going to remain one of Ohio State's, they're going to remain at Georgia for Ohio State. They're going to remain one of those teams that's going to be in the way year in and year out. And I see a lot of matchups, and I see a little rivalry brewing after we play these 3 games. Their fans sounding a whole lot more confident than they did the first time around. They're sounding a little more like the Tennessee fan base, to be honest, before that playoff game last year. They're getting really confident, seeing a lot of shots, talking about Ohio State like we're some kind of less than program, the SEC rubbing off on them quickly, which kind of blows my mind, man. It's just their second year in the SEC. But Texas in year number 2 in the SEC, going back to the 2006 game, which I just watched again the other day, with a very, very young James Laurinaitis, 13 tackles, a forced fumble, and that sweet interception that he returned back to the 20, setting up an important field goal for the Bucs in that game. And that game for Laurinaitis was kind of the official turning of the page from being really sad for a lot of Buckeye fans about losing A.J. Hawk to realizing, man, Laurinaitis really is that dude. And a lot of people were feeling that and feeling super excited about that. And while I was excited, I personally didn't like the part where it was like, okay, we've got another AJ Hawk, because I just loved AJ, and I felt it was premature, and I thought it was a little disrespectful. And I have this about me. It's part of my personality. It's the same way I felt last year when Quinshon Judkins was coming in and everybody was saying he's the better running back than Travion. Yeah, we've known Travion for years. And it just felt like this is so disrespectful. Of course, I loved Quinshon by the time he leaves, and obviously I ended up loving Laurinaitis, but it's just the way I am. I was sure wrong, though. He definitely was AJ 2.0, and that run, having those 2 linebackers back to back, just incredible. But James, obviously the star of that game on the defensive side of the ball against Texas in 2006, stat stuffer kind of day. AJ had just done the same thing the year before in Columbus with a ridiculous game in 2005. AJ Hawk had 12 tackles, 3 for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, a recovered fumble, and an interception. Also returned his down to the 24-yard line, setting up a field goal for the Bucs. So 2 games, 2 different linebackers, 2 amazing historic linebackers for the Buckeyes, and just fantastic games by both of them. And now as we enter into this game, one of those star linebackers is now the linebackers coach, and he has a linebacker room that has a combination of 3 linebackers together that I don't think we've been as excited about since AJ Hawk, Bobby Carpenter, and Anthony Schlegel in the linebacker room together. You got the Blocko, Sonny Styles. You got A8, Arvell 8, P squared, Payton Pierce, number 26, going home to Texas. It's a dream crew. And I am so excited when I look at these top 5 linebacker room rankings. Guys, the Buckeyes aren't in any of them. Nobody sees this coming. They don't know what we've got here. And I love that when that happens. Now, we got James Laurinaitis coaching these guys up. We've heard the twinkle coming out of his voice and in his eye when he talks about Payton Pierce, a guy who does everything right, super smart. I think next year what we're going to hear from the talking heads, I guess I am that. I should probably stop saying that. I guess what we're going to hear a lot of is Caleb Downs this year, what we hear people say about Caleb Downs being a coach on the field. Next year, I think that's Payton Pierce that gets all those compliments. And he kind of already does. I mean, he already knows all the linebacker positions. And in spring, he had already moved on to everything every defensive lineman is supposed to be doing in every alignment. Just one of those types, one of those real heady guys. And at 6'2", 230, great instincts, hits like a freight train, and that's your number 3 guy. That's number 3. But Sonny and Arvell, both on the preseason watch list for the Butkus Award. They are both so big, so long, so athletic. Sonny at 6'5" now, 240. Arvell 6'4", 240. Both of them look like edge rushers, and they are both fast enough to play linebacker, which is just a lethal combination. Having two of those guys, people would dream for one. We got two, and the thing is, they're going to be needed heavily against this Texas game. The Ohio State secondary, by the way, spoke to the media yesterday, and I just cannot get over Jermaine Matthews. This guy, the personality on him is just amazing. And the fact that Ryan Day said he's a surprising leader now, I just love, because he was a bit of a, he was really outspoken. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind, even when it wasn't always positive, publicly on Twitter. And now he's a leader. He's got so much confidence. He's a starter. I think he's going to break out this year and be gone off to the NFL as a high pick. But we also got to hear from IGB, who I also feel this year is going to redeem himself to the fan base with penalties. He's a great corner. He really is. He's a great corner. And the penalties gave him just a stigma about him that he didn't deserve. I mean, he deserved to be, ripped apart for the penalties. But he's a great player and got those penalties. And I think the part that he's a great player got lost in some of that conversation. This guy who stepped up big in big ways. Those two with Caleb leading the way. Texas receivers are talented but young. I think they'll do a real good job. Texas, CJ Baxter, their stud running back, now looking great. They got Wisner as well. He's really good. I think the biggest X factor that nobody's really talking about might just be Arch running the ball and converting third downs with his legs. Arch is a hell of an athlete, and we talk about Julian Saint's face. I talk about it all the time. The baby face makes him look a little smaller than he is, just gives that perception. I feel like Arch's face doesn't make me realize sometimes looking at him, listening to him talk, how big he is. He's a big kid with thighs like this, squats a boat, and he's a powerful dude, and he's fast. And there is nothing worse than a quarterback consistently picking up third downs, keeping drives alive with his legs. And this game, with that running game, and with Arch able to do that, you need these linebackers to look like Laurinaitis and Hawk did in those games. This crew right here. And Sonny, who wasn't a superstar last year, got better and better and better. Can the interior of the defensive line help them out? I am really interested to see how much those starters are going to play, how much we're going to see Edric Houston and K-Mac play. We heard Larry talk last week, and he said 25 to 35 snaps. He said 25 to 35, a very big boat indeed, Tone. 25 to 35 snaps, and I would sure like to see them be able to play a little more in this game. I'm hoping he's talking with an average throughout the season, including games where they're not going to be needed in the fourth quarter. I do think we're going to see more of them, but we really need those guys on their game and as much as possible. And then we go to the backups. And there's a lot that we haven't seen out of those guys, but they're going to be crucial in letting Sonny and Arvell roam free and be able to stuff that run game. But a lot of people talking about the Buckeyes offense, thinking that, the obvious play here, the safe game plan would be Ohio State really trying to run the ball, the offensive line looking good. Can they really get the action going with the running game? You're loaded at wide receiver. Obviously, it's Julian's first game, so you don't want to put a ton on him. But I'm not going to be surprised if Julian has over 22, 23 pass attempts, which would, be a decent amount. It wouldn't be in past iterations of Ryan Day's offense, but it would be a lot again in this year or last year for a game like this with a young quarterback. What they're going to do again this year, which I can't stand, but they're going to be huddling and limiting plays again like they did last year. I couldn't stand it. I dealt with it. We all dealt with it, but I really love pushing the pace, and it does limit plays that the defense has to play in the long run. I just feel like it also, I feel like if you're going to get a lead on a team, you can just get it faster and pull your guys earlier if you're just playing a little faster, but whatever. That's what we're going to see this year. I'm really interested to see the game plan, really interested to see Hartline in game one. And is he going to be in the box? I talked about it the other day, but Down at the press conference, he was asked if he's going to be in the box or on the sideline. Now, we're less than 2 weeks out. He didn't have an answer, so I'm guessing he's not going to give an answer. They're not going to tell us beforehand. Maybe they will on Tuesday. But you would think this would be dialed in by now. I expect him to be in the box. I don't think he really wants to be in the box, but I expect him to be in the box. We do still have a couple of remaining battles, so to speak. I mean, Jalen McClain and Malik Hartford, I think they're both going to play a lot. I think that's kind of been established, and Matt Guerrieri told us as much. Doesn't really like getting into the who's the starter or who's not, because you could technically start the game with one of them, and he might not be the guy that plays the most, and that's true. But I sure do hope we see Jalen McClain a lot, because this is the guy that I think is just such a steal. How he played last year. Love Hartford as well, but I usually end up gravitating towards one guy in a battle. McClain's my horse in this one. At kicker, is Corvell pushing Fielding? What have they been seeing there? I haven't heard anything about it. Be really interesting. I mean, Fielding is the incumbent, obviously finished the season strong in the playoffs and in the national championship, but Corvell came in with some pretty great stats. Be interesting to see who comes out. I suspect it'll be Fielding, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Corvell. So that's everything I got about the Texas game. And we're going to be moving on here. But before we do, just a reminder tonight to please like tonight's show and make sure to subscribe to the Buckeye Huddle. John Gruden was at camp today, shot a little video I wanted to show to you guys.
If Mike Nugent came back to kick, or Tom Skladany, heavy artillery, would you look at this? Where's Jake at? I mean, Orlando Pace. Can you imagine Jack Sawyer clomping down the field? I mean, it says alpha right there. That's what you want in a football player. Ricky Dudley, Eddie George. You want two-time Heisman Trophy winner Archie Griffin stomping on your freaking head with these. It's not red, it's scarlet, brother. Can you imagine Woody Hayes, Jim Tressel, Ryan Day, guys like Joey freaking Galloway, Chris Carter, Santonio Holmes. Imagine David Boston coming out of his stand, Sean Springs, Antoine Winfield. What a bat. These are like the LeBron James shoes, man. These got to cost a fortune. You guys ready for this? These are the shoes the Buckeyes are going to wear against Texas next week in the home opener. These will blow your freaking mind. Look at these things, man. Is that not the most beautiful shoe ever? It's just incredible. I'm going to try one on. Oh, you can wear these out to dinner. You can wear these in the red zone. I'd like to be Jeremiah Smith making my cuts in these things. What else you got in here? Holy cow, it's a whole freaking continent of shoes. I want to go to Ohio State. We didn't have this stuff at Dayton, I'll tell you that.
Look, you either love that guy or hate him. A lot of people can't stand listening to him. I love it. I love the enthusiasm. He's fun to listen to. We heard from the tight end rooms today, or the tight end room today at the Woody. A few things that stood out, not a ton. The coaches are increasingly giving away less and less info as we move on here closer to the season, and I don't blame them. But Max Clare asked about catching Julian Sain's balls. He said they feel different. They just come in really soft. They spin a ton, and it's just a different feel. Keenan Bailey said he has been the way he's been installing the culture in the tight end room. I love it. Like last year, their attitude was, we're going to be the toughest guys on the team. We're not the most talented. In fact, I think he even said, I told him we're the least talented guys on this team, but we can be the toughest. We can be the bad dudes. And they were. And this year, they're not the least talented team or group on the team. So this year it was, let's be the leaders. Why not us? I love his collection of guys. I love the way they work together, and the way he gets them all on the field is really impressive. And I think it motivates him a ton, helps create that culture. I was not hugely excited for him getting the promotion to tight ends coach. It felt to me like it was a buddy hire. He's been sensational, and he just keeps getting better. I love the way his guys play. He's done an amazing job at talent acquisition. He's done great evaluations. Remember, Nate Roberts, as good as he is, he wasn't even a top 10 tight end. And he zeroed in on him early and went and got his guy, a dude that lives 15 minutes from Norman, Oklahoma. And he's just been fantastic. Finds Brody Lennon. Brody Lennon, a stud. Nobody was in on Brody. He was getting like Wisconsin type offers, was his biggest deal. Went and found Brody, small school guy, took a shot. Brody is a sick athlete. And, getting Max Clare, obviously, that was kind of more like Max chose Ohio State. But Keenan gets credit, man. He closed the deal, and a lot of people couldn't. So he's just been phenomenal. By the way, Dylan Davis, our buddy from the Delaware Gazette, asked Nate Roberts about growing up a Sooner fan, how nice it is being able to now take on Texas in the shoe. He is really excited about that. And he was a huge Sooner fan growing up there. Christian Bennett said that this was the deepest, most talented tight end room since he's been here. Then he said, and that's saying a lot because we had Cade Stover and G. Scott in them, not saying as much as he thinks. This is the deepest room by miles and miles and miles. Keenan Bailey said he's been using Max Clair's decision to come to Ohio State already as a pitch to high school recruits. He said, we already had arguably the best tight end room in the country, or I'm sorry, with the best receiving tight end in the country comes to Ohio State, and you got the best wide receivers. He could have came and been the best route runner, or not the best blocker, but I'm screwing up this quote. But it's all good stuff, trust me, that he's using to sell with Max Clair making his decision to come to Ohio State. He also said that Jelani Thurman could play a big role in the offense, and it got me thinking, had Max Clair not come over, Jelani Thurman would have been the talk all summer, because it was all summer last year. Jelani was going into his second year. So the pressure on Jelani would have been huge. And I think this is probably a better situation for him. He doesn't seem like a pressure kind of guy. He's a fun-loving. I think like he's going to perform much better without the expectation being that, you know, you really want a big output from Jelani because he's got all the skill to do that. It could potentially be a big year for Jelani. He still seems to have some struggles catching the ball as consistently as some of the other guys, but obviously the athleticism and the size puts him in position. It'll be interesting to see what he's able to put together this year. But Max Clair, it's almost just been like so easy to plug and play him into your mind as to that's just the dude. And everything we've heard coming out of camp is, yeah, he in fact is that dude. It's just a plug and play. He's smooth as ice and he's tough and he's learning how to block good. Going to be really exciting to watch him play. Now, I am someone who has always loved history in general. That's you know, my documentaries I watch and books I read. It's history. And loving college football, I've always loved college football history as well. Obviously, you may have seen me do episodes in the past on historical things about college football. One of the things I did and recently just re-released was my all-time program rankings. And I don't remember why I did this, but I pumped it out the other day or last week or something. And one of what I did was I took together like the 12 criteria that I think most people would agree are things we use to judge a college football program. And I don't weight national championships more than the other categories. And some fan bases see that Ohio State ends up number one the way I do it. And they basically try to say I'm intentionally not weighing those national championships more so that Ohio State finishes number one, because if I weighted them more, Alabama would be number one. The reason I don't believe in weighting those national championships more versus a lot of other criteria is because I feel like national championships prior to a certain period are the most overrated statistic that we have. And now there are some that are obviously total garbage that is in the news recently and everybody knows about it. But honestly, before you played for the title on the field, there's some people that don't think you should count it until the BCS started. I don't believe that, because there are a lot of years where you can look back and the national championship was pretty clear and obvious. It just always bothered me that before television, we were really talking about newspaper guys around the country relying on ticker tape and box scores in the newspaper to vote for a national championship in a sport that was never designed at any point to compete for a national championship until recently. And it just feels silly to me to think that that's the system that we're using that was never really accurate, never really fair. And if we look before the AP poll in 1936, a lot of those national championships, of which Michigan has like 7 in that period, were like historic, like historians were going back and awarding these things 20 years after the fact, which is just ridiculous. But looking at all the records on paper, when you look at all the national championships, Yale won. Like those were all, we're going to go look back and see who we think. And there are a lot of schools that claim a lot of national championships that were voted by a lot of different things that weren't called the AP or the coaches poll. And here is a list of national championship, the national championships that are claimed. These are different polls and such that have voted for schools claimed national championships. Anderson and Hester, Alderson System, Berryman, Billingsling Report, Boned System, Congrove Computer Rankings, Coley Matrix, Caspar Whitney, DeVold System, Dickinson System, Rockney Trophy, the Dunkel System, the Eck Rating System, the Howlgate System, the Litkenhouse Ratings, the Litkenhouse Trophy, the Massey College Football Ratings, the Matthews Grid Rating, the New York Times, the Polling System, the Rothman Rating, the Sagarin Rating, the Wolf Rating, and the Williamson System. People claim national championships from one or several of those all throughout college football. And the reason I bring up this topic, obviously today, as most of you heard by now, yesterday, the news about Auburn. If you and I went to Jordan-Hare Stadium last year to watch an Auburn game, we would see this. 2 national championships. They've got 2 national championship banners hanging in the stadium. Now, those are the 2 national championships that Auburn has won that were voted by either the AP poll or the coaches poll. If you won the BCS national championship, you won the coaches trophy, which is the coaches poll. There are only 30 out of 136 D1 programs that have won a national championship in all of history, just 30 out of 136. There are only 20 who have won multiple. So 2 national championships is great. Nothing to sneeze at. And really based on who we know Auburn is as a program historically, it feels about right that they've got 2 national championships. You know who else has 2? Penn State. Clemson has 3. LSU has 4. Nebraska has 5. You can feel that those numbers are kind of lining up with who those programs have always been. Oklahoma, 7. USC, 9. Ohio State, 9. Michigan, 10. Notre Dame, 13. Alabama, 18. If you notice, those top 8 programs were the 8 blue bloods. Well, Auburn has gone back and claimed a bunch of national championships, and they said in their press release that they're tired of being humble. They are now claiming 4 new national championships, but the truth is they were already claiming 3 additional ones that they didn't have the hubris to put banners up in the stadium. So really, they're claiming 7 national championships that were voted by some of those systems that I just read there, outside of the AP or the coaches poll or the BCS or the playoffs. So now they're saying they've got 9 national championships. Let's go through them. 1913, Auburn was 8-0. This title belongs to 9-0 Harvard. And this was pre the coaches poll in 1936. This was one that was looked back and voted upon that Harvard won. And that is a stupid way to reward a national championship. Auburn was undefeated. I don't know, man. Had they claimed this thing 40 years ago, nobody would have said boo about it. But claiming it now, you know, I mean, I don't know who can blame them for claiming that. It's just like when you do it now, it doesn't mean anything. 1914, 8-0-1. That was an Army national title. Army, who played a tough as schedule as anybody back then. Auburn tied a game. Army was undefeated, and that's not Auburn's title. 1957, Auburn was 10-0, AP number 1. They were on probation, banned from the postseason like Ohio State in 2012, but they went undefeated. 1958, 9-0-1. LSU was 11-0. This is a bogus claim by Auburn. They're now claiming that they're undefeated, but they had a tie. LSU didn't. They were 11-0. They won 2 more games. LSU was the champ. 83, Auburn was 11-1. Miami was 11-1, finished number 1 in 83. And people were watching these games on television. A lot of information. Miami was the clear number 1. This is a BS claim. 93, they were banned from the postseason. Erroneous claim because they didn't get the opportunity to prove it on the field in the postseason because they were banned from the postseason. This is like saying, all right, we can't play, so now we get the benefit and we get to claim a national championship. That's garbage. 2004. A lot of people say this is legit, that they would claim it too. 2004, 13-0. The title belongs to USC. In that year, Oklahoma USC and Auburn all finished undefeated. The SEC at the time was not thought about like they are now. Think about that. Just 20 years ago, the SEC was so little respected that their undefeated champ didn't trump USC and Oklahoma to get to that championship game. Well, that championship game, USC destroyed Oklahoma. And Auburn, while they may have given Oklahoma a better game that year, maybe not, USC would have smashed them. But what's happening here is the same thing they did before. They're rewarding themselves for not having to go play USC and claiming this national championship anyway. The point is that this is a system that we're talking about claim national championships. A ton of programs claim national championships that are just total nonsense. 2010, they were 14-0. They won the BCS. That goes on the wall, right? That's a national championship. Now they've got 9, and they're putting themselves with the Blue Bloods. They're putting themselves tied with USC and Ohio State, more than Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Texas. Auburn's not that kind of program, and this is ridiculous. And it further goes to my point about national championships being the most overrated stat that there is when we're talking about these old national championships. But they didn't set the precedent here. Their rival did. In 1984, Alabama, at that point, had 6 claimed national championships. They were all won by Bear Bryant. And an SID by the name of Wayne Atchison was digging through some old archives and found some old record books and went through past seasons and got a bunch of obscure rankings where Alabama was voted a national championship by one of those little peanut things. And he published in the program, instead of 6 national championships, 11 national championships for Alabama. The most egregious one, 1941, Alabama finished number 20 in the AP poll. Well, Atchison was asked about this before he died. He said he studied the 2 losses that they had that year. They were kind of fluky. And besides, those wins were against great teams like Tennessee, Georgia, and Tulane. So he claimed it. He kept it. And somehow we just let this stand. Now, Georgia, they did it in 1942, by the way. That's a Buckeye title. That's Paul Brown's title. Georgia went back in the 80s, the mid-80s, and claimed the 1942 title. The entire thing is ridiculous, man. But Alabama did it first, and Alabama is their rival. So if our rival did that, I don't know. I think there's a lot of Buckeye fans who would want to do the same thing. And in that sense, you can kind of get it. But the truth is, when you do it in this era, where there is so much information and it's so easy to look at records, it just reeks of desperation, and it's kind of disgusting. But let's talk about the Buckeyes national championships, because I can't call out other programs for claiming national championships erroneously if we don't make sure all of Ohio State's are on the up and up. Ohio State claims 9 national championships. The NCAA recognizes 7. The NCAA recognizes 1942, 1954, 57, 68, 02, 14, and 24. Ohio State claims 1942, 1954, 1957, 1961, 1968, 1970, 2002, 14, and 24. So 1961 and 1970, Ohio State claims those titles. They're not recognized. In 1961, Alabama was 11-0. They were the Sugar Bowl champions. Ohio State was 9-0-1. And the Ohio State faculty, often the nemesis of Woody Hayes back then, they didn't want it to become a football school. They hated it. They were pushing back against it. And they voted to not allow the team to go to the Rose Bowl. So Ohio State did not get to go compete in the Rose Bowl. And based on that, they were 9-0-1. Alabama wins the Sugar Bowl undefeated. They're the national champion. Well, most people hearing this would say they have no one to blame but themselves. Their own university stopped them from going to play. And then that same university turned around and called themselves national champions. If this was any other school we were talking about, we would probably all say, I don't really like that. But 1970 is much worse. 1970, this is straight up erroneous from Ohio State to call this a national championship. Ohio State did not win the national championship in 1970. They claim it. There's a banner in the Woody. There it is. It's a pretty banner. I love these new banners. It's not a legit national championship. They went out to the Rose Bowl. They were number 2. They lost to Stanford by 10 points. They had it at their fingertips and they lost, and they still claim it because one of those crappy 3-letter organizations voted them the national championship. So Ohio State claims 9. There are 2 that are disputed, but they claimed them at the time. And because they claimed them at the time, they stand. That's how it goes. By the way, Texas also claimed the national championship that year as well. Nebraska was the real winner of the national championship. So Texas and Ohio State, both with erroneous 1970 national championship claims. Maybe they can play this upcoming game for who gets to be the one left erroneously claiming the 1970 national championship. But Ohio State didn't go back in their history like Auburn and Alabama and try to pad stats. I think that's the broader point here. And for that, they deserve the national championship. Now, because there are so many erroneously claimed national championships, Alabama, if you ask them, they're saying 18. When everybody talks about Alabama, they say 18. Nobody says 13. As for Auburn's grimy move, like we've seen other programs do this, so I will always continue to say 9, right? Like this shirt says the chase for 9. This was obviously printed before 2024. We're going for 10 now. I'm not taking those out. We claimed them back then. They count. So that's where I stand on it. But Auburn, grimy as hell for doing what they did. It is rather funny, though, that it's their rival who's the one that kind of started it. But McNeil shared this the other day. This is just hilarious. Hello, fake title department. I'd like to file a claim. I love that.
Oh, thank God. We got a black stripe alone! Hey, this Cali boy is born into the program and been making plays all camp. No receivers, no six. Philip! I just want to thank God. That's what I'm saying. I love you, Mom. And I appreciate y'all boys for bringing me to the Brotherhood. Appreciate Coach Hart, Coach Jordan, Coach Greg, Coach Nick. Go Bucks. Hey!
Our man, Phil Bell, is tearing it up, and he's a freshman that I don't think a lot of people saw coming. Didn't think he'd have this kind of impact as a freshman. He started in spring. He's continued it into fall. And at this point, he's a bona fide dude. He's going to be a dude. Loses his black stripe. Fantastic. Congratulations to him. I wanted to get into this story. So Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, is too busy trying to find ways to make more money by ruining the playoff. And he just got owned by Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, again. If you pay attention to the media days, SEC media days was ridiculous. They talked the entire time about their strength of schedule. They put out a propaganda packet about their strength of schedule with all sorts of data broken down. And they want the College Football Selection Committee to change their criteria to reward strength of schedule and strength of record more. And they wanted to stay with the 511. That's how they came out of that meeting with. We want to stay with the 511, and we want to leave it in the hands of the committee so long as they change their criteria. So the Big Ten was pushing for the 4-4-2-2-1-3 and trying to eliminate the committee. Big Ten also wants the SEC to go to 9 games. So they put the SEC in this position to basically say, okay, well, we'll go to 9 games if you give us the format we want. So the SEC kind of in a win-win, because the powers that be in the SEC do want to go to the 9th game. They want to make that extra money. It's $5 million a school on their deal if they go to 9. There's several schools that want it too. The only ones who don't are the coaches. The coaches never want that. But the selection committee has now changed their rules. They've changed their rules based on how they're going to select teams, and they are going to use a strength of schedule. Well, they already use somewhat of a strength of schedule measurement, but they're going to make it bigger, and they're also going to add a strength of record category in there. When we look at any of the systems that judge strength of schedule, any one you look up will have roughly of the top 12 top schedules, 10 SEC schedules. So this does nothing but stand to bolster the SEC when it comes to the selection committee. And basically what the SEC want is a system that would have allowed Ole Miss, Alabama, or South Carolina to get in over Indiana last year. They were all 9-3. Indiana was 11-1. They want a system, because they look at that and they just can't believe it. They want a system that's going to say this 9-3 record, this team is better than that 11-1 team because of the schedule they played versus the schedule we played. We haven't seen these metrics run, on that 2024 season, but that's what they're looking for. That's what they wanted. Obviously, the Big Ten would not want this, and somehow it got pushed through. So that's what they're doing. The thing is, the SEC has always gotten the benefit of the doubt in this aspect already. The SEC could always lose an extra game and be judged the same. Look, Ohio State has two, so I'm not going to try to pretend like Ohio State hasn't benefited from this too. But the SEC has always had that one game extra that everybody else hasn't. And now it's looking like they might get two. They might get two, because outside of Wisconsin, they own this entire metric. And what the strength of record does is, even if you lose a game, if you lose to a better team, it penalizes you less. So win against a team in their conference, get a huge boost. Lose against a team in their conference, get a little bump down. That's the way this is going to be. And it's only going to be skewed more towards the SEC now as we move forward. Again, this doesn't affect Ohio State much. Ohio State has been, historically gotten the benefit of the doubt much more so than a lot of these other programs. Definitely much more than the rest of the Big Ten programs. But Indiana last year, and this is why I don't agree with the way they're scheduling 3 cream puffs at 11-1. If they were 10-2 last year, they wouldn't have made it. They might not have made it at 11-1 under this new system here. But at 10-2 last year, they would not have made it into the playoffs, playing a Big Ten schedule at 10-2. And that's why I think if you're a program like Indiana, you are wiser to play another decent opponent in your out of conference and not take the 3 easy wins. Now that you play another decent opponent, by the way, this could help scheduling big time out of conference games, because if it's true that if you're scheduling an out of conference game, if you lose to a team that has a good record, then your strength of record, you won't drop as much as you would have before. And if you beat them, you get a big boost. So it incentivizes that a little bit more if you look at it that way. We'll see if anyone decides to take that into account, or if we continue to see the trend to dropping down to the 3 cream puff format to make it even Steven with the SEC, which I can't stand. I wish these guys would just play that extra damn game so that we could see the Big Ten not drop back to what we've seen Nebraska and Indiana do now, trying to play a couple of cream puffs. Anyway, guys, the big news tomorrow, we got Braylon Womack. Braylon Womack going to be making his decision tomorrow night at 8 p.m. And I will definitely, let's hit that like button. I will definitely be live tomorrow for that over at Juck on Bucks. So you can pop over and join me then. Adam Bachtel said Auburn just claimed Womack. It is very true that Auburn, by the way, Hugh Freeze, Auburn fans are just over this dude. So this guy yesterday or 2 days ago said he might be playing 3 quarterbacks in game 1. Like, dude, I mean, playing 2, that's one thing. He said he might be playing 3 quarterbacks in game 1. And this is a guy that might beat Ohio State for a 5-star that loves Ohio State tomorrow. We'll see. We'll get the final tomorrow. Yes, his sister does play softball at Auburn. It's true. It is true. We got some super chats to get to. All right. Chris Lane, always hooking me up just because you're a swell dude. You're a swell dude, Chris. Thank you. Dan, $99.99. Jeez, oh, Pete, man. I wish you'd have given me that on Juck on Bucks. There you go, Mark. Juck, While giving you hard times has become my new favorite pastime, wanted to let you know how proud I am of you. Everyone who has ever done a podcast from a basement is living vicariously through you. You are truly a great American success story. Keep doing us proud. OHIO. Thank you, Dan. That's a great pal, man. That's a great pal. Chris, can't we just celebrate the Natty for a few more months? Listen, I've been over this basking situation with you guys. Like, we are 9 days away from game day, man. The basking, I'll tell you why. Here's why. We were talking to Michigan fans mid-season last year. Their season's falling apart. They're looking terrible. You know what they were saying to us? I don't care. We just won a national championship last year. Brother, never me. No, sir. If we're having a miserable season this year, that is certainly not going to be my attitude. Like, basking during the season, that's for Michigan. And as far as I'm concerned, the season's on. Like, we're in it now. We're Ohio State. We act like we've been there before. Beamer says CJ Donaldson and James Peoples going to be great. And I think they're both really good backs. I think you're missing one, though. I do. My man Mars says, I understand huddling more to save your guys long term, but being so deep at every skill position allows you to rotate more anyways. So keeping guys fresh argument works, but doesn't. For every single point you can make to go slow, you can make another one countering it, honestly, which is why I don't like it. But I'm also a guy who loves stats and things like that, records, in action. I love more action. I mean, honestly, we want more plays in a game because we get to watch more action. That's more fun. So, but now that he's got proof of concept, from last year, though, I don't think you can say one way or the other, right? Like, all right, what if you didn't do it? You can't say it. Honestly, if you are playing a game and you play it real slow and it takes you all 4 quarters to win by 28 points and it took you 62 plays. All right. Well, let's say you run 62 plays in 3 quarters and you get up by 28 and then you pull your starters. Now you've played the same amount of plays. And in addition to that, you get to play a full quarter of your backups, which they didn't get to do at all last year. I'll add that they didn't get a lot of that. So, Julian saying got 11 pass attempts last year. So playing fast like Day used to and opening up huge leads seems to me like the better way to go. But hey, man, he's the boss. Whatever. Just win, baby. Chris says Matthews was great. IGB stuttered a lot. Was he nervous? No. IGB has dealt with this all his life, and it has gotten a lot better in recent years, but it's something that he has struggled through, and that's just how he talks. So I think it's really, honestly, if I had that issue, and a lot of people that do have that issue, like intentionally try to be quiet and like turtle up because they're embarrassed and they don't want to talk. I was really happy to see him do that interview yesterday because that is, it's pretty courageous. It is. So I was happy to see him do that. He talks a ton of crap to people, which I love. And I think it's cool when you see people overcome things like that. Wheels and levers. Wheels and levers. Where's our guy here? Wheels and levers. I rank you guys, so this is a Texas fan. I rank you guys as the best of all time. Texas is just a state with the greatest all-time talent. All right. Since you gave us one, I'm not going to argue with that. No pause there, Juck. What do I need to pause for? What'd I do? Grimy as hell. Juck, if you give your prediction for the Texas game. No, I've not given the prediction yet. I don't think. If I did, it wasn't my official prediction. I will give my official prediction on the pregame show, which we're going to end up doing probably, I guess we'll probably do it Thursday, because what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to go down Friday and maybe go to the Pickerington Central game. Wayne is coming in and Jameer Brown's going to be coming to play at Pickerington. So I can go to that Pickerington game on Friday, stay the night, and then be up early and won't have to drive down really early Saturday because I want to have enough time to walk around and check out the scene and talk to some people and put together some content with our buddy. If Sayan is ready for week 1, Ohio State will handle Texas easily. I mean, honestly, this whole season is just basically, if Sayan is good, this team can win every game on the schedule and every game in the playoffs. Rod says, in a way, it's smart to go back and claim natties from over 50 years ago because they know young recruits today won't take the time to go back and research it. Gen Z hates history. Rod, I hadn't thought of that. You're absolutely right. You really are. You're absolutely right. I've heard a lot of this recently. Daniel says, I say Ohio State already has 10, claim 2012. I think it's an interesting case. McNeil is hilarious. I think it is. They have an interesting case to do that. You know, because now that we look back, and it was such a garbage penalty. ESPN killed the BCS with too many SEC teams. They killed the 4 team with too many SEC teams. Here we go again. Jam says the SEC automatically has 4 wins due to scheduling. Yes, they do. Yes, this is Tony points out. The SEC has no incentive to change since the committee has changed for them. They did. And I don't know how this was allowed to stand. I don't know how it was allowed to stand. Playing slow lost the M game. I would argue more than that lost the M game, but yeah, that was one of them. Yes, Adam, I am going to the Massillon-Glenville game without a doubt. Cannot wait. Oh, Emily, I saw this. Julian saying has an NIL deal with Hey Dudes, and I know that there's a whole lot of you guys that like the Hey Dudes, right? I mean, those are some comfy ones. But he's got some Buckeye Hey Dudes, which I was about to buy. I was going to look those up and buy them. Now, I'm not keen on, scarlet shoes, but I'm due for a new pair of Hey Dudes anyway. I like to wear those around the house. I try not to wear them too much because, there's a stereotype about guys my age wearing Hey Dudes. I don't know if you guys know that. My man C. Mike, what's up, brother? Our SEC bro says, get real, guys. Basketball and baseball do strength of schedule too. No, they already factor in strength of schedule. They're putting more into it. And I don't got a problem with it. The thing is, they've always judged strength of schedule. The SEC has always gotten an additional loss and been on even playing field with every other conference. That's always been the deal. You're asking for more. Bobby, what's up, brother? Ethan says week 10, week 11 SEC games are laughable. LSU versus the Alabama School for the Blind. That's true. No, it will not hurt Ohio State. I don't look at these things through the Ohio State fan lens. I mean, I'll say how it's going to handle Ohio State, which number one, it's not going to hurt Ohio State. Ohio State gets the benefit of the doubt already. But I talk about it just from a college football perspective. And I think that when you already have one conference who gets that benefit of the doubt with one extra win, this could end up being a playoff that is really, full of a lot of SEC teams. And I think that there's going to be a big pushback on that if that's the way this plays out. So I don't know, man. We'll see. Ultimately, I want the best teams in, And if it's true that those are the best teams that year, whatever. But when we look at Indiana last year, they were 11-1 under this new system. If they would have missed it, and Alabama, South Carolina, or Ole Miss had gotten in over them under this new criteria or metric that they're using, as much as I am irritated by the schedule Indiana played last year, when we look at each of those teams and the games they lost, particularly Alabama, who for some reason was the one getting pumped at the end, I mean, you can't lose to that horrendous Oklahoma team in Vandy. Like your wins, you got a couple of good ones, LSU, Georgia, obviously, but the losses, 3 losses, 2 of them in embarrassing fashion. South Carolina almost came in and beat you. Like, that wasn't a playoff team. It just wasn't. And when I look at the Indiana team, what they did, they pounded people into submission. Now, it is true, the only good team they played, they lost to, I thought, in pretty convincing fashion against Ohio State. But I just felt like that Indiana team deserved it over those teams. Now, if one of those teams was 10-2, I probably would have given them the nod. And it wasn't just about the loss column, which is what they argue. They argue it's just about the loss column. I factor in wins, quality of wins. For instance, if Georgia was one of the 9-3 teams, Georgia's schedule last year was ridiculous. There's no way I would have put Indiana in over Georgia. If Georgia was 9-3, if one of the games they lost was, a competitive game, their schedule was absurd. And the way they dealt with it was awesome. So it's always a good debate, but ultimately this just feels like a bad thing because they already get an advantage. I just want to see it in action. I want to see it if we could run these numbers onto last year and see what it would spit out. Like, that's what I'd like to see. How much difference is it? Adam, I don't think that's nuts. I think it's a really close matchup right there. Adam talking about breaking down Ohio State versus Texas. He said he'd take the Bucks back 9 over Texas's back 9, and people say he's nuts. I think that's really, really close off the top of my head. But yeah, we can do that segment. All right, guys. 102.45. Now, remember, tomorrow over at Juck on Bucks, we're going to do another live show, 8 p.m., bouncing back networks here. Might start a little earlier. Might start maybe 7:30-ish. We'll see. But we'll have Womack's decision. We'll pipe that in live. That won't be the only thing we'll talk about. But we'll get together there. Please make sure to subscribe and like the show on the way out. Buckeye Huddle, we're going for a goal here. And as always, you could come over on the website and join us at buckeyehuddle.com, where you can get lots of Tony Gerdeman's coverage, Chip Minich, Ross Fulton, Tom Orr. We've got a whole crew. I think it's the best coverage in all of Ohio State. And of course, we've got you covered on the YouTube side as well. I do also write a couple articles from time to time over at Buckeye Huddle. I'm a bona fide college football writer now. It's not the greatest yet, but I mean well. Anyway, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for participating. I love the conversation at the end. If we could do this every day when we come on and do our live shows, I would love it. Always appreciate you folks in the chat so much. If you are listening on podcast audio format and you could pop us in for a couple of 5-star reviews, that's great. If you are someone who is just now seeing me on the Buckeye Huddle channel, I've got a channel called Juck on Bucks. Come check me out over there. Feel free to subscribe, get you some more Buckeye content. I'm the same dude here as I am there, always family friendly, and lots of laughs, smiles, and energy because we got lots of things to be happy about. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon. Juck on Bucks out.